Back with you on Hittin Hard with John Chuckery on Locked On Sports Atlanta. We remind you to head over to youtube.com. Put Locked On Sports Atlanta into your search browser. When you find us, of course, subscribe to our channel. Free and available, too, on all of your favorite podcast platforms, including Spotify, Odyssey. When you find us, hit that 5-star review for us. Leave us a comment. And, of course, follow me on my Twitter page at JMCH316. Pro Football Focus did a very interesting look at, and they do this every year, a 3-year analysis of the salary cap for all teams. And I thought that there were a couple of interesting things that stood out about the Atlanta Falcons. So they use 5 different metrics in evaluating where your cap kind of standing is. The first thing they look at is how much you're using of your cap to sign your draft picks. Like where are the contracts that your incoming draft class put you as far as your total cap? Interesting for the Falcons, they have the 7th most money allocated for rookies in relationship to their salary cap. And obviously that's because they don't have a lot of high-priced guys, right? You've moved on from Matt Ryan. You've moved on from Julio Jones. Yeah, you've got Grady. Yeah, you've got Debo. But that number will go up even higher as far as, the percentage and what that number is in relationship. So the Falcons have a high ratio of number of rookies that represent what their total cap is or what their total rookie contracts are to their salary cap. This is the interesting one to me, though, and this is something that I've talked about. So when you look at the next 3 years, based upon what they estimate the salary cap to be, how much cap space are you going to have over the next 3 years? Now, the Falcons come in at number 5 on this list with an expected amount of $197,402,307, okay? But it's where they are and the other teams around them, okay? So number 1 is the Chicago Bears, okay? Keep these teams in mind. 1 is the Chicago Bears. Number 2 is the New York Giants. Number 3 is the Houston Texans. Number 4 is New England. That's going to be the outlier when I describe this to you. Number 5 is the Atlanta Falcons. Okay? Now, what do those teams, at least let's put it this way, and by the way, Seattle is number 6. Let's take that top 6. 4 of those organizations are some of the worst organizations right now from a roster standpoint, right? Houston, the Giants, the Falcons. I mean, those are not good teams. Throw Seattle into that mix. While Seattle is a good organization, obviously, they are at a rebuild stage. They don't have a very good roster. Bobby Wagner, probably a Hall of Fame linebacker, gone. Russell Wilson, your franchise quarterback, gone. They'll probably move on from the DK Metcalfs and people like that over the next year or two. Right? There's no need to have a whole bunch of big contracts if you're in rebuild mode. So this goes back to a discussion I've had about having lots of salary cap isn't a good thing because bad teams have lots of salary cap. Why? Because you haven't drafted well, meaning that you don't have a lot of second contracts. You're not going to get high-tier free agents that want to come in and play for you. Teams always find lots of money. Look at how much money the Saints have found. Saints are a good organization. They feel like that they can win. And so what do? They find money to get Tyrann Mathieu. They find money to get Jarvis Landry. So teams can pay guys. Teams will find money to pay guys that they want, but players are not going to go just simply to a bad organization unless they're going to get overpaid. We'll see what Foye Oluokun looks like this year in Jacksonville. He led the league in tackles last year. And, yeah, I didn't like to see him go. But let's see if he really is a $15 million linebacker. It's one thing to outperform a contract when you're $3 or $4 million. It's another thing that now you're a $15 million linebacker and paid a high rate. Okay, how are you going to perform and produce? And they have some talent down in Jacksonville and this, that, and the other. But are they ready to win? They spent the most money of anybody in the league in free agency in this offseason. That's not necessarily a good thing. And when you look at where the Falcons are, with what their roster looks like and available money, I don't consider that to be this big net benefit because people are like, oh, we got all this free agent money. We'll just go build the roster. No, you won't. That good organizations don't build their roster that way. Good organizations are like, they build their roster through the draft and they hit on high draft picks and capitalize on them. Then they pay them a whole bunch of money to keep them there for the second contract, right? Like Grady Jarrett. You find a Grady Jarrett who outplays his rookie contract and you keep him around in the fold and you pay him a lot of money to stay there. But you don't go the Dante Fowler route, and bring in high-priced guys that didn't do anything for your organization, that you don't have the same feel of. You understand what Grady is here because you watch him every day. When you're looking at Dante Fowler and trying to surmise those guys, you're based upon what they've done and what you hope that they can be or this, that, and the other. Now, it's fine to plug a hole here and there in your roster when you feel like you're about to take the next step forward, right? That makes sense. Okay, we're about to, the Cincinnati Bengals brought in Hendrickson. They needed a big-time pass rusher, and they felt like they're turning a corner. They had no idea that they were going to be in the Super Bowl, but they felt like they were going to be better. Okay, we're going to get Burrow back. He's healthy. We drafted Jamar Chase. We think our offense is going to be better. Let's go get us a big-time pass rusher. And he comes in, and he literally sets the franchise record for most sacks in a season. And, yeah, they ended up in the Super Bowl, but they thought they would be better. I don't think anybody thought they'd be in the Super Bowl. But having lots of salary cap puts you in a group of teams that are not very good. And they're not very good for a reason. There's a blueprint as to why teams aren't very good. If you draft Daniel Jones really high and he doesn't work out, your team won't be good. And salary cap won't fix that. And that's my point about the Falcons and where they're at. Now, when you talk about the totality of the five different metrics they use, the rookies, the cap space, prorated money, which means that money that's guaranteed or would be dead money if you let guys go, your top 51 evaluation, that's how the salary cap works, and then your unrestricted free agent valuation, guys that you're going to lose over the next few years. Where do the Falcons come in as far as where do they rank among salary cap and salary cap health? Pro Football Focus has them at 23rd. So that should tell you that that even with all the dead money and the money coming available next year, that the Falcons haven't been good about how they've allocated their money over the last few years. When you have the reason that you've gotten yourself into dead money, more than just Matt and Julio, you've gotten yourself into dead money for Dante Fowler and different people like that. It's because you didn't sign guys or you made bad mistakes on some, the Julio contract in hindsight. I understand why they did it, but didn't look good. Matt was a situation where Matt's contract wasn't bad. I mean, every quarterback's a $40+ million quarterback right now. You think Derek Carr is better than Matt Ryan? I know somebody's going, oh yeah, he's not. He hasn't won a 10th. He's been to one playoff game in his career. You've got all these guys that make $40+ million at quarterback. That's the going rate for quarterback. Matt's contract wasn't the problem. It wasn't a matter if they paid Matt Ryan too much money. Oh, it's a $48 million cap hit this year. Okay, we're going to play with $46 million on the cap this year. You can navigate your way through all of that kind of stuff. But when you don't draft well, and we talked about the 19 draft picks in a 3-year period where you only had one guy that you're going to pay and build around, and Chris Lindstrom, that's why you end up with a lot of cap space. And look at the organizations that I talked about that have all this. Yeah, New England's a good organization. They've moved on from Brady and Gronk and some guys and stuff like that. But when you hit on your draft picks, Mac Jones and some of these guys, right, you can still find yourself in the playoffs. You can still be a playoff. You can balance the two things out. We move on from some of our guys, and we draft really well to fill key spots. Mac Jones will never be Tom Brady. You know why? Because no player's ever going to be Tom Brady. But it doesn't mean New England can't be competitive and can't be a good team. They hit their quarterback. They hit some of their other draft picks, and they don't miss a beat. They took a step backward for a year with Cam Newton at quarterback and jumped right back in the playoffs. And now they're set up for some success. That's not the situation that the Falcons are in. It's why you have to hope that they nail their draft picks this year and they spend smart moving forward and don't overpay for vagabonds and guys that did something in another organization, and you hope that they play well here. All right, when we come back, this Thursday starts the definition of, or I should say, the defining part of Travis Schlenk's era as president of basketball operations now. We'll talk about all that next. It's Hittin' Hard with John Chuckery on Locked On Sports Atlanta.